Hello, DAD220. This is Dr. K here tonight, and I want to do a short video to give you an overview of how each of the modules is going to work in DAD220 and give you a brief introduction and maybe even talk a little bit about the first assignment in Codio. So, the way this course is broken up is just like every other course at SNHU. There's going to be a start here option. You will not have instructor resources. That is only for us. There'll be any specialized links like Codio here, assignment information, and then each learning module will be broken out depending on the length of the course. So we're starting with Module 1, and the best way to approach each module is literally top to bottom. They're designed to be a flow through, so you literally start first thing. The most important thing is at the top, and you work your way down through based upon the order that's provided to you. So again, you're going to see a few things on my screen that will not be on yours, like facilitation notes, but you're going to start when you click on Module 1, you want to go to the introduction, and what it will do is it will take you to something very similar to what I send out as the announcement each week. So it's going to tell you what you're going to learn, the overview of the module, and then it gives you a complete list of things that you're going to do throughout this particular module. This is your guide for the week. This is what's going to need to be completed, and these are the steps that you're going to take to actually complete that process. So this is important. I give a little bit more detail in my announcements than what is on this module at a glance within each learning module, but they're both essentially the same. They give you a good idea of what you're going to be doing and how it's best to approach it each week. Using the arrows here, you can step through and complete each option as you are ready to progress. And in DAD220, we're also using the zyBooks resource. You do not need any special access codes or any other way to access it. These links are embedded and go directly to the material in zyBooks. You may have to create an account the first time, but after you do that once, it will be linked forever. So it goes directly to the zyBooks. And if you haven't used zyBooks, I would suggest watching now and, what is a zyBook? How does it work? Use the different tools that are built into it. That is something you can explore on your own. So each module is in chapter is aligned to the content of each module. Let me try that again. So each chapter in zyBooks corresponds to the module that we're working on in the course, and they have a lot of information and even options to test your knowledge to make sure you understand along the way. And I would highly suggest that you use this resource because the quizzes each week will be based specifically on this information. So just be aware of that. Each quiz is based off the content within the zyBooks. So you can see here what I've done is I've clicked on chapter 1. It took me directly to that resource. There is a MySQL tutorial that I would suggest that you read through. These are additional support items, and to begin with, you might want to look at these real closely. Later on, these will actually be duplicated throughout, and you may just use them as a resource later on. But how to get started in Codio, way to access Codio, and so forth. So I would suggest going through that and being familiar with those resources because you will use them at some point. So the important part, as you look at Module 1, what you're going to do is you're going to read through all the materials. You're going to study the resources and database basics. Then you are going to do the discussion board this week. And please pay attention to each week that has discussions because those are relatively easy points, but you need to participate on time, and you also need to respond to your fellow students. And make sure that you read the discussion rubric, because it tells you exactly how I'm going to grade, and how every instructor for DAD220 is going to grade you. So this is exactly what we use to post the grades and develop those, the way that your grade is assessed and your performance is assessed is all written down in these rubrics. So this is not subjective. This is based exactly on what SNHU wants you to do. So I would pay attention to those discussion boards. Make sure you get them in on time. They are relatively easy points, but it does take a little effort on your part, and please pay attention to the details. With Chapter 1, we do have some tutorials that are non-graded, but these are helpful to get you started and get a little better understanding of what we're going to be doing on, because each module builds on the next week, or builds for the next week, and you will not be able to skip any modules without it causing some problems along the way, because the material is based upon your knowledge each week getting better, and you learning things each week. Finally, you're going to get to the point where you're ready to take your quiz. You can take these multiple times, so I would suggest that you, I will double check on the limit that you can take. I don't know that off the top of my head, but you can take them more than once. And then you're going to step into the practicing query language, or a SQL, structured query language is what we call that, SQL, and the accessing Codio. Then there's a review of the projects that you're going to do throughout the semester or course. I'm used to teaching in semesters, so I'm going to use that term. Whatever you're used to, quarters, this course in particular, these are the projects that we're going to complete. And then it gives you a little bit of a short survey and reflection period to double check what you've done. So the main focus of this is to give you an overview of how each module is going to be structured, but then I wanted to go directly into Codio to help those that have never used an environment like this before. So if you look at the lab guidelines, this is module 1, the lab and exercise that you're going to do. So you're going to read and study the chapter, you're going to take the quiz, you're going to do any of the practice labs that you want to complete. You're then going to go to module 1, the lab, and we will have labs each week. And each lab will, like I say, build on each other and allow you to build your confidence and skills along the way. And those will be what is turned in each week. And then certain weeks do have also have discussion boards. So you're responsible keeping track of all that. I will make sure that each announcement tells you each week, but you're responsible for making sure you know the deadlines and when things are due. If you have questions about it, ask me. I will always refer you to the course materials, because everything is within the SNHU course right here. So we're going to complete this assignment, and when you go to Codio, so you get down here, let me go back. So we want to go to Codio, and I've already done this, but you're going to go to the Codio lab environment right here. That will take you directly into Codio, and your screen should look something like this when you arrive in Codio. Codio is just a coding environment. So it's a virtual machine that you're connecting to that allows there to be a consistent setup for courses and classes, and ways that, so they're providing resources that we can use. Codio is an amazing resource. We're just going to barely scratch the surface of Codio. There's nothing specific or assignments within the Codio environment itself. What we're doing is the labs that are included in each module. So when you connect, it actually shows you right here what you're supposed to do. So DAD220 SQL lab environment, and what we need to do to get started is we need to complete, it says refer to your assignments in Brightspace to complete the work in the terminal. So some of this is not intuitive. That's why I wanted to go ahead and this right here is where you're going to use. So you're going to click on this link. Let me switch my... So that link is right here and it says open terminal. There's also another option in tools and terminal. So we need to get to the command line in the terminal of this work environment that we're using. So if we click on this, what you'll see is this is a Linux environment. This is a very typical database environment. We're stepping back because you can't do the more advanced things in databases until you actually understand the basics. So we are going literally to the command line and you will be typing in commands. Those of you who have done some of this before may ask, why aren't we using graphical utilities? Well, there's a lot of reasons for that, because learning happens better when you do hands-on and actually understand the command formats and things like that. You can use those graphical tools in a much stronger fashion. So the reason we're doing that is we're getting to this point. So what I want to do is I want to pull up this module here, and I'm going to see if I can do both of these at the same time. Yeah, it'll work. So here we are. We're working on Module 1 Lab, and we are in our Brightspace terminal. So remember, you can start that terminal by going here, saying Open Terminal or Tools, and then Open Terminal. Brings you to the same spot. Now, one thing that they sort of skip over, but they give you the directions of what you want to complete. The Module 1 learning example screenshot. So we, as in you, will be producing a lot of different database commands and outputs from the databases, and you will be expected to produce screenshots, and they give you examples of what is expected. Please look at those and understand what the outcome should be each week, and understand how to do those screenshots. It is a little different whether you're on a Mac or PC, but it's very simple either way. And if you have questions about that, please let me know. So we're going to step through the directions on here. This particular assignment, once I show you, it will, hopefully you'll grasp on it real quick. And this is going to be a very brief amount of time for you to complete this one if you follow my example. Each week, I would suggest that you create sort of a script or use Word, Notepad, some sort of text editor, and keep track of the work that you do and the SQL commands that you do each week, because sometimes they will be useful in the future. So if you create that running list of things and how to do that, or what you did to complete each assignment, then you will have that script or those steps to be able to go back to and not have to reinvent the wheel every time. Just a little tip. So what we're doing this week is we are going to create a database in our environment, and we're going to do a couple different things along the way to modify that database. So the step I mentioned just a minute ago that they skip is the fact that when you get to this point, you have not loaded anything. You are just in a Linux environment, and the first thing that you need to do is go ahead and load MySQL. MySQL is the database that we're using, and it will open the database environment for you on this terminal. So you're going to type in MySQL, you're going to hit enter, and immediately it's going to come up and say, hey, you're in MySQL. You will know you are in MySQL when you see the MySQL prompt. So if you start trying to execute SQL commands at some point, or if you're accidentally kicked out, or if you forget to run the MySQL command, you will get errors. You will know you're in the right place to run your SQL commands when you see that MySQL prompt. So what we're going to do is just follow these steps over here, and I'm going to go through them very quickly because I want you to spend some time going through this So you're going to, it says create a database with your last name, and it actually gives you the command that you're going to type. I'm going to move this a little bit to get it out of the way for a second. So this command is create database, and I named my database Kirschner, which is my last name. And so you can see here, this is the first step in the process. And you can see this is the status of the command that we just executed, query OK. That's a good thing. That's like a thumbs up. And how many rows are affected or what the impact of that statement had. The next step in the process, you're going to do show databases is a command within MySQL to show you the number of or different databases that are included on that particular server. And let's see here. Oh, well, there's a good example. I did not type in the command correctly. So you can see that it will give you an error, and then I wish I had done that on purpose, but it says that there's a syntax error, or there's essentially the command did not execute correctly because it wasn't entered correctly. You will get used to those, and that information will tell you exactly what you need to do to fix the problem. So the issue was I used database instead of databases. So the output of that command then shows you the exact number of databases that are included on your particular box. This will become important later on once you've created several databases, and when you need to connect to certain ones to complete work, you will see a list of all the databases that you've created within this course. So now the next step, we've showed the database, and we want to tell it what database we want to use while we're working. So the command is use, and then the name of the database, which in my case is Kirschner. It will be your last name or whatever name you use when you create your database. So we're going to use Kirschner. And now you can see the database has changed, and it is now ready to access the information, tables, fields, etc. within the database Kirschner. So we've already gone through half of this. Now we're going to complete the step that says create table TB2. So we're at our MySQL prompt, and we want to create this table. Now I'm going to try something here, and this is just to speed up the process. You will want to be very careful with this, because if you spell anything differently or use any different information, the copy command will not work correctly. So just be careful when you do that. But so in this particular statement, what we did was create table TB2, which is just a short name for table. And then we created fields within that table, or one field that says user ID. And then we said we're using characters, variable character field with the length of 50. You'll read the topics in the work this week, and this will all start to make sense. This is going to be repetitive throughout the course, and so you'll eventually understand what each command is doing. So the next step is show tables. And now we get a list of tables that have been created within our database Kirschner, and there is one listed there. Another command that they want you to do is describe. So we've listed the tables, but we don't have any information about details of what is in each of the tables. So we use the describe TB2 command to give, or get, in this case, details on what fields are included with that table. So now you can see that we created, based upon the command up here, the user ID field with the type of varying character of 50 length. Can this be nulled or empty? Yes, it can. It is not defined as a key. There is no default, and there's no extra information included about that particular field. So we've almost gone through, let's see here, the extent of this. So they want you to alter the table at this point. So again, this will work in some instances, but be very careful when you do it. I'm going to paste that in there, and it's saying alter the table TB2. I want you to add a new field and use, it's going to be a varying character 25. Now, in this case, it's a little misleading because we're saying add, and new field is the name of the field. So it's a little misleading there. You're not telling it the new field is not a command or a SQL command. What we're doing is putting the name in there, and we're saying new field so that we can distinguish it from anything else in the table. So we'll create that. You can see the output, and then we're going to describe that table. A little trick here is the up arrow will repeat previous commands, and we'll describe that. And now you can see that we created that field called new field with varying character of 25 and all the other information included with it. So that is the extent of what you need to do for this particular assignment. Now, the way you would want to do this, you want to follow the way to organize this. I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to make this a little bigger. And so what you would want to do is take screenshots of these steps and the outputs so that I know that you created everything correctly. You're going to put that in a Word document, and that's what you're going to submit as your assignment, because that's going to show me that you completed all the steps. I know this was a very quick video, but I wanted to just get this out there so that the first week that you can get going. If you have questions, I want you to let me know. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. The best way to reach me is by email first, and then if we need to connect in some other way, we can make those arrangements. Again, my name's Dr. K. I'm here to support you this week. Hopefully, DAD220 will go smoothly for you, and will get you through, and you will be much more knowledgeable about databases when you're done. Have a great day.